Imagine you walk into a job interview. The company looks incredible. Glossy offices, confident executives, a stock price climbing every single week. Investors are throwing money at them. The press is calling them the most innovative company in America. You take the job. You're excited. Then one Tuesday morning, you show up to work and the doors are locked. Security guards are standing outside. Your badge doesn't work. You check your phone. The company just filed for bankruptcy. Your pension is gone. Your savings are gone. Everything you thought was real wasn't. That's not a hypothetical. That actually happened to thousands of real people. And the company at the center of it all wasn't some shady back alley operation. It was one of the largest corporations in the United States, worth $63 billion on paper. The only problem, it was almost entirely fake. This is the story of Enron. Let's go back to the beginning, because to understand how Enron fooled the entire world, you have to understand what it looked like from the outside. It's the 1990s. America is booming. The internet is exploding. Everyone believes that the old rules of business no longer apply. And in the middle of all that excitement, a company based in Houston, Texas, starts making some very bold promises. Enron starts as a pretty boring business. They own pipelines. Natural gas moves through their pipes from one place to another, and they get paid for it. That's it. Simple, reliable, unglamorous. But boring doesn't make you famous. Boring doesn't make you rich enough to have a jet and a mansion and your face on the cover of Fortune magazine. So Enron's leadership decides to stop being boring. They pivot. They reinvent themselves. They tell the world they're not just a pipeline company anymore. They're an energy trading company, a financial company, a technology company, a company of the future, and Wall Street loves it. Here's where the story gets strange, because at this point, most people assumed Enron must be doing something real, something behind the scenes that was generating all this money, all these profits, all this growth. They weren't. Now I need you to picture something. Imagine you own a lemonade stand. You sell 10 cups of lemonade on Monday, and you make $10. That's real revenue. You can hold those $10 in your hand. But what if instead of counting the money you actually made, you counted all the money you might make over the next 10 years and reported that as today's profit? That's essentially what Enron was doing. They used a special accounting method called mark-to-market accounting. The idea is legitimate in certain financial situations, but Enron used it in a completely twisted way. They would sign a long-term contract worth, say, $500 million over 20 years. Then, on day one, before collecting a single cent, they would book the entire estimated profit of that deal as current income. Real money, not yet. Maybe never. But on the books, absolutely, instantly, beautifully. This made their revenues look massive. Their profits looked real. Their stock kept rising. And every time someone got close to asking the obvious question, where is the actual cash, the executives would smile and move on. But here's the part that still feels almost impossible. It worked for years. The man most responsible for building this illusion was a brilliant, intense, deeply ambitious executive named Jeff Skilling. He was the kind of person who made everyone in the room feel slightly less intelligent. He had a gift for explaining complicated things in ways that sounded completely reasonable. And what he built inside Enron was a culture unlike anything corporate America had ever seen. Employees were ranked every year. The bottom 15% were fired, not let go gently. Fired. The pressure was relentless. Everyone was chasing numbers. Everyone was afraid. There was also the company's CEO and founder, Ken Lay. Charming, well-connected, friends with presidents. He was the face of Enron to the outside world, the reassuring grandfather figure who made investors feel safe. And then there was Andy Fastow, the CFO, the numbers man, the one who actually built the machinery that kept the lie running. Because here's the thing about Enron's deception that most people miss. Keeping a $63 billion fraud hidden requires more than just fake accounting entries. You need somewhere to hide the losses, somewhere the public can't see. Fastow built that somewhere. He created hundreds of shell companies, tiny fake entities with names like Raptor and Chuco and Jedi. These weren't real businesses. They were empty containers, financial hiding spots. When Enron made a bad investment, And they made a lot of bad investments. Instead of reporting the loss publicly, they would quietly move that loss into one of Fasto's shell companies, off the official books, out of sight. And then, crucially, Enron would guarantee those shell companies with its own stock, meaning if the shell company lost money, Enron stock would cover it. It was circular, it was fragile, it was a house of cards balanced on top of another house of cards. As long as the stock kept going up, the whole system held together. Now ask yourself, what happens when the stock stops going up? In 2001, something shifts. The dot-com bubble is bursting. Markets are nervous. Investors start asking harder questions. And a short seller, someone who bets that a stock will fall, starts digging into Enron's financial statements. What he finds doesn't make sense. The numbers are too clean. The profits too consistent. The cash flow doesn't match the reported income. He publishes his findings. Most people ignore it at first. Then a journalist named Bethany McLean writes a simple, devastating question in Fortune magazine. How exactly does Enron make its money? Nobody could answer it. Not clearly. Not honestly. The stock starts to slip. And as the stock slips, Fasto's shell companies start cracking because they were guaranteed by Enron stock. Falling stock meant falling guarantees. Falling guarantees meant the losses could no longer be hidden. Suddenly, billions of dollars in debt that nobody knew existed comes flooding back onto Enron's official balance sheet. The stock collapses. Investors panic. Credit agencies downgrade the company. Banks won't lend them money. In a matter of weeks, the entire structure falls apart. On December 2nd, 2001, Enron files for bankruptcy. At the time, it is the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. But here's the part of this story that should make your stomach turn. While all of this was happening, while the executives knew the company was dying, they kept telling employees and regular investors that everything was fine, that the stock was a great buy, that the company was strong. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, those same executives were quietly selling their own shares, cashing out. Millions of dollars transferred safely into their personal accounts before the collapse. Employees were not allowed to sell their retirement shares during this period. They were locked in. They watched their life savings evaporate in real time, helpless, while the people at the top walked away with $1.1 billion.